both platforms. And we're going to speak on the fact that the truth is challenging. Truth is challenging. Pretty much, that's what we've been able to discover. Before we get too deep into this, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect this message. Amen. The truth is challenging. And shalom, Tracy. Shalom, Gordon. Shalom, Sharice. How you doing? Shalom, everybody who's with us on TikTok, the podcast, or is going to be watching this later on YouTube. Prayerfully now. We've got all that stuff together. Hopefully, we'll be able to download this onto YouTube later on. Also, too, do not forget, we will be having our YouTube discussion on what is, basically our 12 Days of Christmas series, so to speak, to talk about why we don't believe in Christmas as far as our personal belief system. So if you'd like to talk about that or listen to that, you can just go on our YouTube channel, hashtag part 2 of Having Been Led as We Believe. We talked a little bit about stuff, of course, though, when we come on. Everybody hears a black man, sees a black man, the way I'm dressed and everything. And then pretty much the immediate place that we go to is usually me having to explain why I can talk about race and not be considered to be anti-racist or whatever. So anyways, we're on, though. Thanks for being on with us. Looks like we're having issues once again with Signal and trying to have people join us, etc. Nevertheless, though, we're going to keep on moving. Hopefully people are able to come on TikTok later. And we're having issues. So, hey, shalom, Becky. How you doing? So it looks like we got people on. It's just, once again, not going to show me the numbers. All right. We'll just get back used to that. TikTok is not excited about the fact that we're back on. So they're going to make it difficult. Shalom, Sister Barbara. How you doing? Shalom, Minister Nice. Hello. So the theme for today, hopefully you guys aren't going in and out on TikTok. I'm sorry if you are. Doing everything that we can. Thank you, Becky. Appreciate that. You guys inspire us to do what we do. So hopefully it won't be doing too much in and out stuff for you guys. We're going to talk about the truth is challenging. The truth is challenging. And as a reminder, as we've had to kind of, as I've had more free time now, as we're putting videos out, as we're building up our community again, branding again, even if you will, making sure that we get back into lives, going back into this. The truth for a lot of people is something that is challenging. Even when I agree with people, a lot of people get frustrated because we're so used to people challenging us, or some people trying to challenge a piece of what we're saying, not agreeing on the whole thing. And as somebody, I guess being away from TikTok for a little while, for a month, you can, right? The truth for a lot of people is always challenging. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know what to tell you about. Am I going in and out as I'm talking? If you're on TikTok, somebody let me know if I'm going in and out, because I can't tell what's going on with this. If I'm going in and out, let me know. What we can do is I can try and switch over. I am going in and out. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to switch over to Wi-Fi. I don't know why all of a sudden my signal no longer works. Give me a second. I guess we won't be able to put this on YouTube again. Tomorrow I'll have to just make sure. Okay, tomorrow I'll just have to make sure that I use straight up Wi-Fi. We'll try it we'll try it one more time. If the signal goes out again, I'll just have to connect it to a Wi-Fi. Even though I have full signal. I don't know what's going on. Shalom, Jermaine, how you doing? Shalom, Sister Tracy, how you doing? All right, so basically, the truth is challenging. I didn't even say the truth is hard. Notice the word usage that we're led to use tonight. The truth is challenging. Okay? The difference, right? Truth is hard, that'd be one thing. Oh, shalom, Alstra, how you doing? Thanks. So the truth is hard would be one thing, right? Truth can be hard. Shalom to my wife, once again, the Honorable Bloom and Flourish. You can follow her on TikTok, YouTube, and her website. And she's starting to do some more stuff. I don't know if she wants me to tell you about that stuff yet. She's testing some things out, so we'll see when she's ready for me to let you guys know about some of the other places she's starting to get into. And if she keeps going that route. Thanks for being on, babe. Love you so much. Appreciate you. So the truth is not just hard. The truth is challenging. Why? Because the truth challenges what is your reality. You know how people say that they have a truth, live your truth, live what you think, live your best life, right? rather than live truth. Living a truth is different than living the. Okay, sorry, hold on. Let's see. All right, those on TikTok. It says now I have an unstable connection. It's probably because of what I use for my connection is not next to me at the moment. Hold on one second. I have it connected to the Wi-Fi. Can you guys hear me? It says on my end it's unstable. Can you guys see me, or is it still frozen? Can you hear me, or is it still frozen? This is getting ridiculous. Just try. You see me? Do you hear me? Anybody hear me? Yes, no, maybe so. It's working. Okay. All right. So prayerfully it'll stay there. It says it's unstable, but prayerfully it'll be able to stay. All right. So getting back to what we're talking about, the truth. The truth is going to be something that's hard, not just hard, but it is challenging. Because when you give somebody the truth, you're challenging their truth. You're challenging a truth. You're challenging what people have been taught. All right. A simple one we always use all the time, right? How many presidents are there? Somebody tells you 46. If you tell them the truth, that there's actually 54, you're challenging a truth. It's not the truth. It's a truth. Something you were taught in school. Hey, shalom. And thanks for being part of the community faith. Right? I don't know what to do. It's frozen. I got the stuff attached to the Wi-Fi. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. How long have I been fruity? I've been fruity just about as long in my life as you've been on this. You've been on this conversation, which is not long because you've been blocked. Nevertheless, once again, somebody on here saying foolishness. So when you get to a place to where you're dealing with these things, once again, you didn't even get a chance to come on to listen to truth. Some people see truth or see something might be truth, and they have to go ad hominem or do anything they can to basically make somebody feel bad, right? But you got to understand you're living in truth. As you walk in truth, as you live in truth, as you're doing things in truth, comprehend this, get this in your spirit. As you live in truth, understand that people are going to be there to challenge you because your truth challenges, not your truth, the truth challenges them. All right? If we can just go ahead and get into it. Understand, and shalom, Chef, how you doing? Understand that while you live truth, that means that your truth, shalom, Brother Dennis, thanks for being on. As you live truth, that means that truth is going to be something that challenges others. So people are going to challenge you. Once again, as you live in truth, your truth is going to challenge others. And as you challenge others, that means that your challenge of others is going to do what? Is going to cause them to challenge you. That's what happens when you live inside of truth. That's what happens when you are doing what is righteous or in right legal standing. That's what happens when you challenge other people. So somebody says, hey, why do you disagree with people get upset. Why don't you agree with everything I have to say? Right? On the lives, these people kind of are the reason why we continue to move the way we do. Yes, Yeshua does love me. Thank you very much. And Elohim bless thee, Barak thee, right? Elohim Barak. Elohim Barak Bar, right? Hopefully he loves all his sons and all of his children, right? Not hopefully, we know he does. That being said, though, people get upset and frustrated when you challenge anything because truth challenges what? Falsehood. If truth challenges falsehood, then truth is going to challenge, and shalom to you, angelic discipline. When truth challenges falsehood, you must comprehend and recognize that when it challenges that which is false, right? Falsehood, right? False coverings, false neighborhood even. When it comes into the neighborhood of falsehood, then what's going to happen is truth is going to basically cause people to have to evaluate how they live. Right? When you're dealing with something that is in truth, you're going to basically, when you're dealing with truth, you're going to have to deal with something that causes you to evaluate how you live. Thank you very much for the love, Ransom. Thank you very much earlier for the love, babe. I apologize for missing that. Shalom, David. How you doing? Thanks for being on. Right? So you have to understand when you come with truth, you are a challenge. When you come with truth in a system, I don't even have to open my mouth. That's why a lot of people, before they even know what I have to say, are already trying to do whatever they can to just be dismissive of what I have to say, or just dismissive because they see me looking a certain way. Why? Because the way that I look causes you to do what? To come outside of truth. Think about it. If somebody can look like me and still take care of their family, when you've been taught that you have to look like what a corporate person wants you to look like, Shalom, Sister Deborah. Right? If I can have my natural self in order and intact, and I can have a beautiful woman on my arm, and I can make sure that she's pleased and she's happy, and I can make sure my children know that they are loved, and I can make sure that we don't have to deal with school, but everybody can be homeschooled, and if I can ensure that I'm still able to teach people and help people to grow. And if I can make sure that I make even the stuff that we do as far as schooling and things affordable. And if we can be working on Yah's land project to make sure people can eat and be clothed and have things of their own and all this stuff. And if we can make sure that we are allowing things to grow, even though it's taking me a while to catch up because I was busy these months, right? But if we can have all these things formulating where they're constantly, consistently growing, if I can do this in the midst of, watch this, in the midst of three, and I'm not trying to brag on myself, I'm trying to tell you how if you push with truth, you're going to be supported, right? The Most High is first of all going to support you. Those who are with you, your family members, they're going to support you. And those who are about or are like-minded, they're going to support you, right? If I can do all that in the midst of challenges, headaches, frustration, even sometimes physical illness, whatever it is, right? If I can do all these things, then what I challenge the person that says that you can't look like that and make it. You have to work a 9 to 5 if you're going to make it. You must pay taxes in order to be able to make it. You must, sovereignty is something that's foolish. Why would you want to be a sovereign citizen, right? When I simply live truth and I am successful in truth, right, which I'm trying to become, because you can't really be a success until you make sure you have a successor, somebody trained to keep what you're going, right? Keep what you're doing. But when I live truth, and truth is reality, and somebody can look at it now and say, well, wait a minute, he can make that too. Somebody got to tear you down. Somebody has to challenge you in that. Let's see, David Boylan said we need to get local communities back where people actually know each other. That too, right? But people don't believe that's the truth. People believe that you're supposed to be able to make it without knowing who you are, right? That's a challenge to the system. You know who that's a challenge to more than anybody else? To kind of keep things on and to show you that I further agree with you, right? That's really a challenge to us as a people, right? Like, I didn't grow up like this, even though my people are Southern. For real, I did grow up like this. We had some schisms in our family that caused me to not grow up into this in my teenage years, and so I kind of stopped, right? But I'm just now getting back to the point in my life to where if I go somewhere, my family's supposedly we're supposed to take care of each other, right? Like, it's something that's clicking in me because we didn't really do it as often as we should have growing up, where neighborhood should be solid. If I go to your house, you should feed me. If I go travel somewhere for a while, somebody should make sure that I don't have to stay at a hotel if I don't want, right? Like, even if I've never met family before, family should be taking me in and saying, yeah, you need a room, you need a place, you need this, you need that. Like, here, go ahead, you stay with us, right? You know, you want to go somewhere or whatever, we'll watch the baby, blah, blah, like, enjoy yourself, right? Like, these are things that we should be aware of, right? These are things that we should be aware of. I have a piece of hair dangling. Yeah, I don't know, you might need to close your eyes to listen if you can't handle it. Sorry about that. I just allow my hair to be able to grow the way it does, So I'm sorry if it's bothersome to you. Actually, I'm not. But, sorry if you can't. You might want to turn it down or turn it off or just listen to something else. But thank you for, I guess, whatever it is that you were for getting that out, At the end of the day, though, your truth becomes challenging, right? Even that in and of itself, right? You're a newer divergent. Okay. So, but thank you for being on. So, the truth becomes challenging to people, right? No, it's not about to fall off. It's been like that for a long time. My hair is strong. No matter which piece of hair you're talking about, it's all strong. It doesn't, it doesn't go anywhere. But once again, if it's a nuisance to you, I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to talk about truth is challenging, so my hair is not really going to be part of what's articulated. So, like I said, you might want to just, I don't know, close your eyes or not, or listen without going. Or you're welcome to try and get past it if you can. If not, I guess I get it. You have to go if you feel you need to. Nevertheless, truth is challenging. Being who you are is challenging. Not meeting people's criteria is going to be challenging, right? Living with truth isn't challenging, right? So a lot of people don't get it. They don't comprehend. They don't think about the fact that when you're dealing with truth, you challenge a system, right? When my son and I walked down, we were walking hand in hand today, and somebody was out walking their dog, and it was full disclosure, it was a white woman, and she decided that she all of a sudden saw us, so she needed to walk her dog, and her dog needed to be next to us. So I basically got in between her dog and my son or whatever, and made it a point to show with body language that you need to back up, right? And so then she backed up, but of course she backed up where she was in sight. And, I made sure that my son was able to play without having to really be aware of what was going on. But just the fact that I showed up was challenging to her. Thank you, NC boy. Appreciate it, right? And I know this, but it's you got to understand that just being you is challenging. And right. And if you are you and you bring your own culture, your own system, that's the Willie Lynch syndrome, right? That anything that is brought that is of your nature is a challenge to society. It's a challenge to the system, right? Sending love from Michigan Militia Active Volunteers. Okay, I'm going to look you up real quick. Never heard of it. Michigan Militia. I'm not going to say why I'm looking you up. Active Volunteers. Okay. Organization founded in 1994 by Norman Olson, a veteran of the youth. Norman Olson. I know that name. I don't know him, but I know the name. Okay, well, I'll look at that later. Nevertheless, have no problem with you being on. And so when people are talking about this stuff, once again, you challenge the system, right? You have to understand that people challenge the system by being themselves. By being our culture, we challenge the system. Amen. Oh, I like that, Minister Nice. Minister Nice said it's challenging to be me. Right? That's real talk. Like, even just to be who you're called to be is a challenge. Today I was talking about our culture, and the first thing people did, they got frustrated. People were leaving all kinds of stuff in the comment section. How dare you say that you don't believe in equality? I was like, because two people aren't equal in my culture. The reason why my wife and I work well together is because we understand we're not equal. She's great at being herself. I'm great at being me. We're coming together to be one, not equal. It's the things that I bring to the table that are a strength, and the things that she brings to the table that are a strength, and both of us recognizing that we also bring weaknesses together that allows us to be strong as one. Right? People got upset and frustrated about that, and were telling me, how dare you? Because in their mind, you got to be equal. That's what somebody else said. That's not my culture. It's not my standard. And when I bring my standard to the table, I challenge them. You said, wouldn't it just be different but equal? If two things are different, what makes them equal? You see what I'm saying? We're going by something that doesn't make sense. Now, that's my culture. You don't have to live by it. I'm just trying to tell you, David, like when we say separate but equal, it doesn't register to me. Like separate, not even separate but equal. That'd be different, right? But we're not even saying that. We're saying two things are different but equal. Well, how are you different and equal at the same time? 1 + 1 = 2 means that 1 and 1 are of the same value. They're equal. Therefore, they equal 2. 1 and 1, same value, equal 2. Right? Because if it was 1/1 plus 1/2, right? If the denominator wasn't the same, if the foundation isn't the same, then they're really not the same thing. So they have to both be 1/1. They have to both be equal. If they're not equal, right? If they're not equal, then what's going on? Then they're not, or if they're different, they can't be equal. It's a cultural thing, though, right? Equity is better than equality. Equity, or just respect of the differences, right? But it's challenging to people. NC Boy says, when I'm listening to your wisdom, we aren't equal. Oh, wow. Oh wow. All right. Thank you. I accept. I accept that. I appreciate it. There's definitely things I could possibly learn from you, but I appreciate that. Thank you, Ransom. You said that just seems like wordplay. How is mine wordplay? Equal and different mean two different are different. They have different meanings. Correct. Look up the definition of different. Look up the definition of equal. And then tell me if they're the same definition. You're saying I'm making a play on words. I don't seem to be playing around with the words. I seem to be using the words as they are. My wife is not the same person that I am. I'm not the same person that she is. Therefore, we are different. We're not equal, right? So since we come together and make sure that we form together and that we're puzzle pieces that can come together and unite and be able to put together a beautiful puzzle that allows people to be able to see an outstanding marriage and allows us to have peace and tranquility in our lives, I'm not playing around with words at all. I mean exactly what I mean. My wife, if she was here with me, if you probably see her in the comment section from time to time, sometimes she's right next to me on these lives, she would tell you the same thing. We were talking to people on Big O Live today. Somehow, some way I ended up doing a live I wasn't intended to do. My wife was talking to some people or whatever. And we ended up with a conversation with them, and they were asking us about marriage because they saw that we were happy in marriage and talking some real stuff about things. And we said the same thing to them, to the next generation coming up, to some young folk. You know, what were they, 22, 23, 24, something like that. And talking to them, right? I'm not playing with words. I'm telling you what it is. Now, if you say you don't want to agree with that, you don't have to. It's not, it doesn't have to be your standard. The standard I live up to says that the reason why my wife and I are great is because we love each other's differences and we love, do we have similarities? Sure. Right. But we're not the same person. And because we're not the same person, we actually able to attack problems or even massage problems or to reposition ourselves during things because somebody can help to lead the other person. There's some things that I'm blind in because I'm not efficient enough or even proficient enough in them. Why would I lead my wife when to be the blind leading the blind? If she can see, as a matter of fact, if she can see better in some things than I can, then why would the blind lead the person that has sight? Matter of fact, if you're in complete darkness, you might want to have the blind person lead because what you thought was a weakness now becomes the strength. So yeah, I love differences. When I first got together with my wife, I tried to do the thing that everybody says. We're going to be equal, and why don't we do this? And when we talk, we need to be equal in every conversation. Blah blah. You know what? There's some conversations where my wife needs to take over, and I need to be quiet and listen. There's some conversations where it's vice versa. There's some conversations where we need to play tennis. You talk for these many seconds, and then boom, I'm gonna talk this many seconds. Then boom, you're gonna talk this many seconds. It's a flow. It's a thing of it's not equality. It's a flow of recognizing and realizing what's necessary. Not even every situation we go through is equal. So equality is not something for us. But once again, it's challenging for a lot of people who are saying that you got to live by equality. If you live by equality, that's a challenge to your system. Once again, you don't have to agree with it. Equal. Oh, thank you, Minister Tam. She looked at the definition, said uniformity, sameness. No one is equal to me. I'm the only me. Yeah. And that's what I believe. Shalom, Tulips. How you doing? Thank you for being on. And thank you for the likes for everybody. Once again, the likes, the gifts, sharing. We appreciate you all. Thank you, Sister Cherise. Appreciate the agreement. Miss Modesty, it's a great example of marriage. Your wife is beautiful, and so is y'all union. Appreciate it. Thank you. You said, I think when you say you're not equal, it implies one is lesser to lost. Well, watch this. As much as we would like people to just be numbers on a sheet, human beings are not numbers. Human beings really are beyond what our modern terms of value are. Watch this. If you say, like, for example, if a human being is equal to another human being from that mindset, I'm not saying this is exactly your mindset, but just hear me out, right? I know what you're hearing. That's what I'm saying. You're hearing something that's not my culture. That's not my intent. That's not what I care about. Through another lens, through another prism, that's what it sounds like. So let me help with that. If I might, maybe it'll help, maybe it won't. I don't know, because you're a very intelligent person, and I might just not be able to communicate this on a level of the intelligence that you hold, right? Both of us are intelligent, but our intelligence might be based in different cultures right now, okay? Let me say it like this, that no human being carries a value. For example, they try to say, Bill Gates is worth this much money. In my culture, no human being is worth a certain amount of money, right? A human being might have a certain amount of money, but they're not worth a certain amount of money, right? So if Bill Gates dies and some person that I don't know who's homeless on the street dies, as far as I'm concerned, neither person's life is equal to the other. So I can't say like one person's life was worth more than the other person's life was. I can't do it. So I don't believe that one human life plus one human life equals. I believe that there's a human life and there's another human life. Both have value. Both have their own movements and stuff. Both move in different ways or whatever. At the end of the day, we become one, so that all of a sudden we kind of do this, our stuff together as one, and then eventually we become more steady. I don't believe that 1 + 1 = 2 when it comes to a human being, because technically human beings have more value than just a numerical thing. There's no amount of money. The only thing that could even be spent, as far as my belief structure, my culture, my system of things, the only thing that could be spent to even redeem human life was the blood of Yeshua HaMashiach, right? The manifestation of the Creator himself, right? Which shows that there's no amount of money or nothing that could ever be withheld that could purchase my freedom again, because that's how loved I was. That's the value that I carry. So I don't really look at it the same. So I don't think that one's lesser than the other. I think that's somebody else's culture. My wife could never be lesser than me. Matter of fact, the second that she becomes lesser than me, she's not qualified to be my wife. And I could never be lesser than my wife. The second that I become lesser than my wife, I could never be her husband. And watch this: the second that she became lesser than me is the second that I can't submit to her, and the second I became lesser than her is the second that she can't submit to me, because you can't submit to something that's lesser than you. So when I need to submit to her, I can't submit or bow my knee or bless somebody by getting down and helping to establish her and lift her up. I can't, and be her foundation. I can't be foundational if I'm always supposed to be over her, and vice versa. So when you're saying it implies that, you're implying it from somebody else's thought process. In their world, in that same world, the only way that you can submit to somebody is you have to be lesser than them, and being lesser is a bad thing. In my world, being lesser than them is if you have to be lesser than them, and being lesser than them is a great thing as far as submissive, right? Submission. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm doing everything I can with the signal. This is a TikTok thing, not me. I'm sorry it's going in and out. Prayerfully, you guys will be able to, if you're missing stuff, we got it on the podcast. Sorry about that. Let's see. David says, but you have the same inherent worth, meaning you have equal worth. I think that's the misunderstanding. Okay, that's your misunderstanding. That's not what look, we both have a worth. We both have a value. Our value is not equal. That's what you want it to be. You think that when I say our value is not equal, you think that means that I'm saying that if I'm lesser than my wife's value, that means that I can go ahead and be killed and it would mean less. No. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. We have a different value. There's no amount, right? Or watch this. Let me say it like this. Maybe at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to get past this. This is why I said truth is challenging, right? At the end of the day, look, both of us have a value that's beyond even putting numerical value to, right? Both of us realize that we work great with each other and can't imagine life without the other person, right? Both of us are highly favored. Both of us are the head and not the tail. Both of us are above and never beneath. Both of us are outstanding parents. Both of us are in that realm. Yes, we're very similar, right? The things that make my wife valuable are not the same things that make me valuable. So even if you were trying to put some kind of equal thing, let's say in your mind, both of us are worth the same amount of numerical value, whatever you want that to be, because I don't even think we can explain. Here's the other thing. We're trying to say that we're equal and trying to come up with some equation, but you couldn't even give me an equation that adds up to us being equal, right? Because you're trying to say that 1/1 plus 1/7 equals 1, right? Like, we're not of equal value. Anyways, what makes her foundational, what she stands upon as a human being, and what I stand upon as a human being might be similar as far as canon, but her calling, what she does in the kitchen, what I do in the kitchen, what she does in driving, what I do in driving, what she does as far as raising our children, what I do as far as raising our children, et cetera, et cetera. They're different things. So even if you wanted to say, like, let's say value-wise, we're both worth 1,000 credits, whatever that credit is, 1,000 spirits, 1,000 things of energy, 1,000 things of $1,000, whatever. If you were to say we're both equal, what makes us worth value is still different, right? So for example, we're not equal. Like, for example, let's say that you found a chair that was worth $1,000. If you found a table that was worth $1,000, you can't say that the chair and the table are equal, right? Right? They're both valuable, and maybe the value gets you to 1,000, but they're still not equal. One's still a chair, one's still a table. The chair still slides up under the table. The chair helps it eating at the table. It's a lot easier to eat at the table with the chair, and it's a lot easier to eat in the chair with the table. But they're not equal. They work together. They come together. They might even be worth the same price. You probably can't imagine one without the other. Matter of fact, both of them being dressed up are really nice, right? It's a great experience. They're both designed to serve the same human being. It doesn't mean though that one's better than the other, or one's equal to the other. Right, and I think that that's the distinction. You keep telling me that one has to be equal to the other. Nevertheless, the truth is challenging. That's the main point, right? And then you can even see the truth is challenging. And by the way, you should be able to challenge. Have your, when people say your truth, it should be, should be willing to have people challenging. I'm sorry, you said that's not so, Creole Queen. Some people are lesser in areas. I'm lesser in areas. Yeah, some of us are lesser in areas. That's what I was saying. I guess we're agreeing. I'm sorry, I'm catching up to the comments. It said, yes, their perception isn't understanding the point. What he's hearing comes from a need to quantify. Yeah, and I understand. I believe in quantifiable and qualitative data. I just don't know if you can quantify somebody's value or how you do that. Like for me, I feel like every human being, like there's some people that believe that every cat and every flower and every blade of grass, et cetera, our life life is something that you can't put a value on. Well, I believe that all human life is something that you can't really quantify. I just know that it's so great that the Most High came down and died for us all. But that's my culture. It's a different thing. You said it's like when you pick up Mario Kart characters. One character is faster. One might be better returning. Yeah, it might be. So if they're different, if they do things differently, right? Donkey Kong is heavy, he goes fast, and he doesn't turn that well. Mario Kart's kind of in the middle. Toad is one that's really small, he's fast, he can turn and all that, or he's quick, but he's not going to be, his top speed is not going to be the same as Donkey Kong's. They're not equal. But you put me in a race against somebody in Mario Kart, you might have to give me a couple tries to make sure that I catch up on the controls, but I'll dust almost everybody in Mario Kart. I don't know how this turned into a challenge of Mario Kart, but they're not equal. They're not lesser. You're doing the thing. That's a worldwide thing that you have to be equal, but that comes from people trying to make it equal. When it comes to human beings don't quantify as a number to me. So I don't think one human being plus one human being equals two. Matter of fact, if you want to deal in numbers, it's something that doesn't make sense mathematically in the physical, because my wife and I would be 1 + 1 = 1. Right? 1 over female plus 1 over male, or the spirit over female plus the female over male, for us equals one being. Right? Just like with Adam, 1 minus a piece of himself, 1 minus 1, or 0.5 minus 0.5, right? 1 minus 0.5 actually equaled 1. He had part of himself taken out and then ended up having 2 people that went back to being 1. So he had some of himself subtracted and somehow still got 1. Right? Human life is different than all these other things we try to quantify. Right? Human life is completely different. But that's a cultural thing. Once again, that's a cultural thing. So it's a sign again, that stuff is, is different. So now I agree with you. I just think the way it's said is confusing to you. I know, because it's culturally different way of saying it. That's what my point was, is that to speak truth is going to challenge, right? It's like if somebody says, and I'm not saying this about you now, we're moving on, praise Yah, because I think we're in agreement. Weren't hearing each other, and I apologize on my end for that. Amen. My wife said no 2 snowflakes are alike, or not equal, all beautiful. It's like if you tell somebody, they'll say, well, you're so busy, you believe in segregation. And I'll say, I don't believe in segregation, but I believe that my people should live together and make sure that they have their own neighborhoods. Somebody says, what's the difference? You're talking about them not living together. Well, first of all, it's already set up where my people live in poor circumstances. I'm saying we should get ourselves together and live in rich or wealthy circumstances. All right? You can try to make it look bad, but they're mad because I'm challenging their way. Right? What is segregation? Segregation is when you separated things and you put us on the bottom on purpose. I'm not talking about being on the bottom. I'm talking about us making sure that we have our own stuff so that we have our own value and we can look at you eye to eye. I don't even need it to be equal value. I just need it to be stuff that works for us as a community. I want my own IQ test. I want to grow my own food. You know, have you ever thought about the fact that a lot of our cleansing and stuff that come, it usually even that will come through the lens of somebody else's culture, and people are built different. So people who have certain cell types, certain blood type, etc., they should be fasting different than other people. They should be eating different things than other people. You know, these are things that are real. But somebody would look at that and say, oh, you're causing segregation. It's like, so you don't think that having a black neighborhood and a white neighborhood is segregation? You don't think that having a black church and a white church is segregation? You don't think that having a light-skinned church and a dark-skinned church, yeah, I said skinned, you know, you don't believe that that's segregation? It exists already, right? So when I say, hey, they already got us separated, and when we come to them, we're afraid to look them eye to eye without saying, hey, please give me something, please give me something. So why don't we stop saying, please give me something, let's get ourselves together. And people say, oh, how dare you, that's wrong. No, I'm not saying the same thing you are. I'm not saying that we should have segregation. Segregation means my people need to be drugged through the mud. Exactly, yeah, it does exist. Yeah, thanks, babe. Yeah, exactly. We're talking about it. We're not creating it. But people will say, oh, you talked about it. You created it. Why? Because you're challenging them by examining truth. And when you examine truth, that means they have to examine self. People do not like to examine self. They do not like to examine. Watch this. That's why people get mad when we speak on racism. If I speak about racism, that means you might have to talk about your grandpappy. And you love your grandpappy. Matter of fact, everybody loves your grandpappy. He got a great name, but when we find out your grandpappy was doing some of that stuff, and maybe he was in some of them pictures back then, and maybe when they were giving out pieces of people that were hanging from trees and stuff, maybe he took a little piece with him home. You know, we got to start saying, oh, that's a little, you know, and we don't want to think that. Like, we have to think that about black people. We grew up with some people in our communities where when we look at them, we're like, wait a minute, you did what? You might be a traitor. Like, I grew up loving you. You uncle so-and-so. You auntie so-and-so. But what you did back then, you talking different now, but back then because you gotta, when you introduce truth. Now, it doesn't mean you still can't love uncle so-and-so or love auntie so-and-so or love your grandpappy, but I'm not going, while loving you, I'm going to admit that you did some things wrong. And people can't do that. They can't separate it, right? To do that is to challenge the system. If I bring truth is challenging because it makes you have to challenge yourself. It makes you have to challenge what somebody taught you. Cherie said, beautiful, love it, need more of these, black love, amen, right? And thank you for that. Yeah, they don't want to acknowledge racism exists. You said, what's up my thoughts on interracial couples? I believe that somebody should marry who they want to marry, okay? And if a black man marries a white woman, I'm not going to call him evil. If a black woman marries a white man, I'm not going to call them evil. Whatever versions of that, Chinese, Indian, South American, whatever terms we want to do to separate ourselves. Here's what I would say, though, is that for me, I would just say this. If you're going to marry anybody of any race, this is what I would say. Anybody of any race, we're going to keep this 100. Once again, anybody of any race that you would decide to marry, this is what has to be part of the conversation. And when I do marital coaching, etc., this is going to be part of the conversation. Do you know where somebody comes from? Do you know their culture? Are you willing to support them, right, to the ends of the earth? And and watch this, do you understand that you become one with who they are? So understand, if you're going to marry whoever this white person, white man, white woman, if you're going to marry a black man, black woman, then comprehend that when you do so, you are taking on their fight and their struggle. If you're a black person and you're going to marry a white person, all lives matter is going to come with part of the family, right? Don't act like it's not going to be, and don't act like it's not going to make some of your decision making. It is what it is, right? You married into the family, right? Don't or whatever, vice versa. You got some black people that do all lives matter, right? But Black Lives Matter might be part of the family. Understand that if you are a white person married to a black person, that means that a police officer, especially when they don't know you're married to a white person, is going to do some crazy stuff to your spouse, right? How ready are you to make sure that you go to the ends of the earth to support them and stop it, right? Or to make sure that it's said, or to make sure that you do things. Understand that there will be people in your family on both sides that are going to look at you strange, right? But you got to understand you're taking on culture, right? You're taking on culture. You're taking on that little girl or little boy that's going to come out of you guys. You're taking on their hair. right? Be ready to deal with that. You're taking on, and I'm not saying it's all righteous, it's all correct. I'm just telling you it is what it is. How ready are you to be able to support that, right? And that would be for anybody, though. If you're a man, are you ready? A man's number one responsibility, at least a woman's number one need, is to feel secure. As any man, are you ready to make sure that that sister feels secure? A man's number one need is to make sure that he feels respected or heard. Are you willing to do anything to make sure that that happens, even above the children that you have, because your children don't come before your spouse. So if you can't handle that in any level, let alone now when you put black and white in there, let's be honest, that's going to be a different ball game. Right? Is she going to make sure that when you are dealing with things as a black person, is she going to hit you with, well, you know what, we're the standard that everybody can look at because see, we're where peace and love goes? Or is she going to say, you know what, baby, when you step outside and they shoot at you, they looking to shoot at you, and I need to support you as such, right? If she's going through stuff, understand the black woman is the most disrespected creature, not person, but disrespected creature on the planet. And when they get ready to disrespect her, do you have it in your mind that you are going to ensure that you make sure that you help her in her disrespect, white man? Like, whatever it is, both ways. So when somebody says how you feel about interracial relationships, I say be real about it. Can you handle that? Because that's not a normal thing. There's people that I know, when we started doing our classes and stuff, the first people that started showing up before the black community, which is usually the case, black people got to see other people get into it, were white people. You know, it was like we were doing stuff for our community, feeding people, doing all this, and it was white people that were supporting us at first, more than it was black people, more than it was Israelites, whatever we want to call ourselves, natives, indigenous, etc. And they were telling experiences, even about interracial relationships. And a couple of them were like, hey, we couldn't make it work because he was hurt and I didn't know how to really deal with it. Or he would say things to me like he couldn't really trust me. Or we would be holding hands. And when he got around black women, even if the black women weren't necessarily against me, he would like try to distance himself from me. Like there's a lot of hurt and pain and issues that come with that. There's a dynamic there, right? And so that should be stuff that's talked about before you get married. You should be qualified as a husband or a wife before you get married. Are you ready to go through those things? Do you even know how to circumvent certain issues that have come up with that, right? So when somebody asks me about an interracial relationship, I would say straight up, like, okay, are you ready for all the pieces that come with that? Are you ready for the fact that, you know, when she raises her voice at you, that's what she does in her society or whatever? Is she willing to say, you know what, dang, I don't need to raise my voice at him that way because when I do, it makes him look in a different way. I'm just thinking I'm mad at him, but when we out here in public, like other white dudes gonna come and call him when I start raising my voice, because that's how they're trained, right? If I'm a black dude or whatever, and my white wife is going this or whatever, am I going to check sisters? When should I check my sisters? When should I check the black community? Should I check the black community? You see, like there's a lot of stuff. So, and I'm not trying to say once again it's right. I'm just telling you it is. People might not want to hear that, but it is. It's real. So if you want the interracial relationship, I don't know why people act like you shouldn't treat it like an interracial relationship. Now, some people think, oh, treat it like one. What do you mean? Treat it like one. You're going to go through struggles. There's going to be hardships. Your struggles and hardships will be different than everybody else's. And what are you willing to deal with? How far are you willing to go? Right? You're going to become one with this person. You take on everything, even spiritual stuff, mental issues, emotional things, etc. How far are you willing to go? If you're not willing to go there, if you haven't thought that through, if you're going out with somebody, you're thinking about marrying them, you haven't thought that through, it's unfair to the person you're getting ready to go into a relationship with, because you two might love, and real, like this is what I'm saying, it's not right. You two might be down for each other more than anybody's ever been down for. Real. Like you might be, but understand that when you walk out there, that's not how the world sees you. So how down are you? Marriage is a political statement. People don't want to be honest about that, but marriage is a political statement. Hear what I just said. Marriage is a political statement. When people see my wife and I together, we have said this is what our children look like. We've said this is what we wear. By what we wear, people know what I'm about. I don't have to open my mouth when I walk into a room. So when my wife is with me, when she parades me anywhere, and I'm glad, I hate to use that term because parade is bad, but you guys know what I mean. My wife will proudly say, hey, this is my husband. Check out my husband, this and that or whatever. And when she does, she's making it a point to say, I'm proud of this man. Everything that he comes with, whatever you guys like, dislike about him or whatever, I don't care. I'm letting you know this is my This is my king. This is the person I've become one with, and I am his queen. Same thing with me. This is why you always hear, go check out Bloom and Flourish. Check her out here. Support her in this. This is her business. We helped each other to build each other up. Why? Because we're proud, and everything that we do, right, it's one. So if you're not ready for everything that comes with them, first of all, you haven't been trained, right? Secondly, you're not gonna. It's not gonna work. At least not the way you want it to. You have to make a decision that you're ready for everything, whether interracial or not. So interracial just adds a couple other things to it. If you feel like you love the person to be willing to do all that, go make it work. Still put Yahweh first, though, right? Because anybody can be grafted in, but they need to know about them laws. That's all my thing. If I'm going to marry you, I understand we're going to make sure you know about them laws, the marital laws, them kingdom laws. That's what I'm going to get to, right? So, but that's real talk, show that you prepare for one another, no matter what. So I'm not going to if I see my brother out there with a white woman, I'm not the Israelite that's going to go to them and be like, oh man, you terrible. Look at what you're doing in our community and stuff. Like if she following the law and doing things, she's showing she's down or whatever, she's willing to wait till marriage, she defends you, she makes sure that she, is following commands, making sure that she makes sure that you feel secure, or you feel respected and heard and all that stuff or whatever. Like, cool. Like, all right, and if he makes sure he gonna make sure you secure or whatever, I tell anybody, including, especially if I'm gonna marry you, I'm gonna tell you straight up, because if I'm marrying you, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna be my spiritual daughter. So if you marrying my daughter, you best treat her with respect, no matter who you is as a man, no matter what your color is, because I'm coming for you if you don't. Right? Real talk. And we got community built now, so I'm not coming by myself. Don't mess with our sisters, right? Don't mess with our daughters. Don't mess with our sons either, but our daughters, we got to really respect them because of how disrespected they are. That's just real. So, Gravity says, what it means to become one with somebody else. Sorry. What it means to become, okay, I can't find you. Sorry. What it means to become one with somebody else in a real relationship is entirely subjective. No, it's not. When you have sex with somebody, your DNA actually gets intertwined. Well, your DNA goes lodges into the other person's brain. You guys start to actually, people don't even know men have periods too, right? They just don't look like women's. So your periods actually start to be around each other's, right? So when one's in a bad mood, the other's in a bad mood, you think it's just because she getting on your nerves, but you get on her nerves, she gets on your nerves, right? When you have a baby, the baby's, I'm about to say progesterone. That's totally wrong. The baby's, I forget what it is. Something the baby gives off. Not endorphins, but it makes your endorphins go. I'm forgetting what the term is. Forgive me. But what the baby has, if you speak to your wife, the baby and the wife get excited, right? And then so the baby and the wife get you excited, and then when the mom and daddy get excited, they make the baby excited, and the baby and the daddy then make the mom excited, and it keeps going to everybody else, right? You become one. To become one means that you stop worrying about doing things within yourself, and you have a symbiotic relationship. You're not dependent. You're not independent. You're interdependent. Now, the subjective part, I would agree with you on this much. It's subjective depending on what your culture is. Right, but if you have a culture that says you can make marriage whatever you want it to be, then yeah, it can be subjective. You're your own God. Do what you do. But the subjective part, I subject myself to a higher authority than myself, right? You said the classic unequally yoked. Yeah, remember, equally yoked doesn't mean you're equal. The yoke is just keeping you two from going away from each other. When you talk about equally yoked, what people call equally yoked, because that's not even what they would have called it back then. But now what we use is the term equally yoked in their version of farming and stuff like that. Equally yoked means that you got an ox that's old and doesn't have as much strength, but it can hear the commands of the master. And you got a young ox that doesn't know the commands of the master yet, but it's strong. And you put the two together, and where one is weak, the other is strong. Where one is weak, and one is strong, the other is weak. And they're able to both do what the master says and be able to do what ultimately needs to get done to make sure that that what needs to take place agriculturally happens for your culture, that people ultimately get fed. Thank you, Sister Sonia. Yeah. So those are things. My wife said it's beautiful that love overcomes all obstacles. It's just tough enough to love. Right. Amen. Thanks, babe. You said you carry the weight of history in an interracial relationship more than others. Yeah, that's something that people wouldn't assume about me, because I have no problem with being who I am. so I don't have to like qualify who I am. But the reality is, if you want to talk about interracial relationships, technically my mother was somebody who passed. And when she passed, she could pass for white. If you look at her carefully, she doesn't really pass. But, you know, most people would look at her and just assume she's white. If you look at certain pictures of my mother and put them next to me, you would actually say that we look a lot like each other, especially without the beard, obviously. But my mother passed for white. And a lot of people don't know this about me, so it's really interesting when they say that I hate white people or stuff like that, because I'm actually a black sheep in my family on both sides. And my grandmothers kind of started talking to their daughter and son-in-law when I was born. The way things went down, my parents got married. Neither side wanted them to marry. The black side didn't want them to marry the white side. The white side or the passing side didn't want them to marry the black side. And neither person was able to really talk to their parents until I was born. When I was born, my grandmother, my father's mother, started allowing me to come over their home. And my mother's mother actually allowed us to live with them in Brooklyn. So we actually lived with this person that looked like a white woman. My grandmother passed even better than my mother did. And so she basically, even though she was Jamaican, so it's very interesting. You hear her speak and you be like, oh, like you Jamaican, right? But you know, she looked like she was white. And we're in Jamaica, the whole colorism thing is on a whole nother level. So like she was basically like beyond white. She was like a princess where she was. When she came to New York, she had to actually, you know, humble herself. But a lot of people don't understand, like, you know, so I know what that is, to have a mother who passed for white and had to look her black son in the face every day and had to say, hey, don't let anybody tell you that you're not great. Don't let anybody tell you you're not handsome. Don't let anybody tell you you're not attractive. You're smart. You can do great things. She's the one that taught me to speak. When I was 4 years old, she was getting me ready. At 6 years old, I was speaking in front of congregations, right? She's the one that was like, you're going to do this. And it wasn't Christian congregations. It wasn't even biblical, or, you know, what we would call what we do now. It was Jehovah's Witness congregations. So even in that, there's usually a lot of white people on top, black people on the bottom type thing that even flows in that, right? People don't want to have that conversation, but it does. So, you know, when even in that, there was a lot of stuff going on the whole time. She's like, you're going to make it. You're going to be powerful, this and that. Even when I broke her heart and did stuff that sons do, right, that we're not supposed to do, she was still there like, don't let anybody tell you you're not this. You know, you're going to make it. You're going to be amazing. You're going to do great things. She loved her son, right? But I grew up. You know, a lot of people don't know that about me. Don't think about that when they see me. But, you know, I grew up in a place where, you know, you see it more in my brother and my sister. If you see them, you'll see them lighter skinned and have certain tails and different things like that. But yeah, like I look like my mother. If you ever see a picture of my mother and I don't know if I've ever showed it before, but if you ever see a picture of my mother and I next to each other, you'd be surprised. And you'd be surprised how she looks, especially if I put some glasses on and she got her glasses on. You'd be surprised. Like we look like twins. You know, she's a very beautiful woman, by the way, and I'm proud to look like her. It's interesting. Certain angles I look like my father. Certain angles I look like my mother. It's weird. I don't know if any of y'all got that experience. Anyways, though, so a lot of people will think that I'm just speaking, oh, you're a black person, you don't know what it is to go through this, blah, blah, whatever. I know what it is to see my mother go certain places and be treated a certain way, and then her children showed up and people be like, because they weren't expecting black children to show up. I know what that's like. When people say, I know what it's like to know that my mother worked a job in a very prestigious area in, where they call it? I think it's called King Street in Alexandria, Virginia. Very prestigious area. Worked as a secretary. You go in the place, I mean, it's immaculate and all this stuff or whatever. Showed up like once or twice and she never really brought us back because it didn't make her look good. And they were they didn't want her. It didn't let the company look good, rather. And she had to make a decision: do I keep the job or do I bring my children around? Like I know that, you know. So people think that I'm just talking from a random place. It's like I've lived that. I've seen that, you know. You know, back then I wasn't really allowed to have. I had the fro for a little bit, but I wasn't really allowed to have the fro or just let my hair grow or whatever. So, you know, I know what that's about. I know what it is to come out of that. And I had to have a mother and father who loved each other past that. You know, my father still to this day has not married another woman, and his wife passed away 20 years ago. Still has not gone to be with another woman. Like, that's what I come from. Thanks. That's what I was trying to say earlier, babe. Oxytocin. Thank you. Oxytocin. You know, you give away oxytocin, and oxytocin makes the baby function. It makes the mother function even when the baby's in the womb. That's what I was trying to remember. The love hormone. Thank you. But yeah, so a lot of people don't know. You know, when you're dealing that. You said my mother had white skin. Okay, so you know she passed. I put it like that. She definitely passed. And my grandmother, you see a picture of my grandmother looks straight white, and that was the intention. Now, when you saw her in the house, you saw that black side come out. But my grandmama, she was my mother's mother. She was pristine, white gloves, you know, hats with a little tip to the side. You know, made sure that she walked, you know, with the hands like this and the purse front, all that. But my grandmother was like, you know how you see them Southern belles and stuff like that, and even the black sisters that come from like the Carolinas and stuff like that, how they be dressed on Sunday and stuff like that. Like that was my grandmother all day, every day, dressed to the T, dressed to the nines, right? And you know, my grandfather, he was somebody who you look at him, you can actually see the dark skin on him, but he still passed as white as well. And he actually had, but he was mixed with a lot of stuff. He's even mixed with like Middle Eastern stuff, Greek stuff going on with him. He's all over the place too. So when I talk about the situation of people coming together, people don't recognize I'm really talking about myself. People just make this assumption, oh, you know, he doesn't know where it's coming from. This and that's like, if you knew all my people, that's when people say, where are you from? Or where are your people from? It's hard for me to answer that because I'm all over the place. Hold on. I think my wife just. That's like if you knew all my people. That's when people say, "Where are you from?" or "Where are your people from?" It's hard for me to answer that because I'm all over the place. Hold on. I think my wife just. What my wife showed me, but she just sent me a picture of my mom, so I'm gonna share it. So those of you who are on here, I'm sorry, TikTok. My wife, she just sent me a picture of my mom. My wife is very good at holding memories and stuff like that. I don't really do well with keeping them. So I'm going to show you guys my mother just to show you. And if you look at me carefully, you'll see, especially with the gap and with the teeth. But if you look at me carefully, you'll see that, you know, you can see certain things and traits that we hold in common. So this is my mother. This is my mother, Gretchen. I introduce her to you guys if you haven't seen. I don't think I've ever showed her on a live or anything before. I've talked about her a lot. This is my mama. That's my mother, Gretchen. So when I say she passed, right? That's what she looked like. So when I talk about these things, I'm talking about where I come from. I know what it is. And you know, she had multiple sclerosis. So it's interesting. I don't actually remember her looking like this. I remember her looking a different way. But she's, you know, when I see pictures of like this, it's like her kind of getting her legs back, so to speak. It's very, it's a lot for me. But like I was saying, that's what she looked like. So my father is where I get my color from. And she's kind of where I get some of my looks from, if you look at this carefully. My nose is not quite, you know, even though we kind of had the same nose, we have it up here. My nose is a little tiny bit wider than hers. You know, but you look at, I was going to say our eyebrows, but, you know, she was obviously doing some stuff with her eyebrow. But we have very similar eyebrows. You have to trust me on that. Our teeth are obviously very similar. And this is interesting that this picture was caught of her because she hates pictures. She hated pictures. So to find pictures of her is very rare. She doesn't like pictures, especially as she got older. She started dealing with multiple sclerosis. She started cutting her hair shorter, and I could tell that she definitely didn't like that. Yeah, you can see it if you look here, especially like my cheeks. Sometimes it's weird. Like when I'm fasting or when I'm eating a little less and stuff, you'll actually see the cheekbones and stuff. We have the same kind of ones, but I have more of my father's cheekbones, I guess. Right, but that's my mom, right? And so she passed her entire life. She would sometimes say she was black, but for the most part, she would even refer to herself as white. And so when I talk about this stuff, when I'm introducing truth, I'm trying to tell people, I'm not talking about from a truth or somebody else's truth or somebody else's perspective. I'm saying, like, I didn't even have to study this for myself. I lived this. Right? What I talk about. So when somebody says, what do you know about interracial relationships, and they ask me about it, that's why it's easy for me to talk about it, because I'm like, that's my mom. I don't ever really talk about. Some of you probably didn't even know until this moment, and I don't think anybody's ever seen her outside of my wife until I showed this picture just now. But that's my mama. She looks, and I look just like her, right? She used to get mad because people would say like this, just to show you even how this is. Like, this is being born or raised as somebody as a part of an interracial couple or whatever, right? My mom would used to get mad because we would show up to places. Didn't matter if it was a spiritual place, didn't matter if it was at a mall, didn't matter if it was family, friends, whatever. And they would always say, "You look like your daddy." She used to get so upset. She would be like, "No, he looks like me." And people used to think, oh, that's the white woman thing. No, she used to get upset because she was like, they assumed that just because I'm dark skinned, I look like my father. Right? So she used to get really upset. And I actually, when I'm younger, maybe I'll see if I can have some other young pictures or some pictures of the Navy when I have like no hair on my face whatsoever, and stuff. But you can see some of you who've seen some of my older pictures on Facebook, you probably, if you think about it, you can probably see some similarities with us. But when I was young, when I'm talking about 8, 9 years old, pictures like that in high school, even some of those, I looked just like my mom. And so she used to get really upset with people. She wouldn't say it out loud. We would get back home because she didn't want to look like she was a racist, right? Because she was married to my father. She understood. She didn't want, she had to support my father's culture. She had to support my father's family. She had to be all in. So she would get home. She would be upset. Sometimes she would address it in public, especially if it was like a white person. She would get on them. If it was a black person or if it was family, she would wait till we got home. And then and then you'd be like, "Mom, what's wrong with you?" They're always saying you look like your father. You look like me. It used to be like a long thing. I remember is one of the things that like makes me smile when I think about her, because she was fiercely protective of the fact that she felt her son was handsome, and she felt her son was handsome because he looked like his mom. So that's something I remember like she would do. But yeah, so thanks, babe, for this. I appreciate it. I wasn't expecting to do this. My wife, like I said, she keeps really great records of pictures and stuff. She can always find pictures for us. And so thanks, babe, for doing that. I appreciate that. Brought a smile to my heart tonight. So yeah, and even though my mom's been gone for 20 years, y'all gotta forgive me for being emotional. It's still tough. It's still tough for me. I probably would be a mama's boy if she was alive. Maybe that's why she needed to go. Maybe that's part of the reason she needed to pass, because I would have, I probably would have become what she wanted me to become. But yeah. So when I talk about this stuff, I'm talking about stuff from experience. You said always. Yeah, I guess you always a mama's boy to some extent, right? It's funny. I would say that I'm one of those people that came from a mama that you felt like, besides like maybe spaghetti or some kinds, even her vegetables and stuff, she really didn't cook that well. How some people say their mom can't cook, but I would take her bad cooking sometimes if I could just have her bad cooking one more time. Sometimes like I even cook some people like, why are you cooking? You don't have this, or you don't put this in it or whatever, and then make it taste better. Sometimes I do it on purpose. I don't say it, but sometimes I do it on purpose just because I'm like, she probably would have made it like this. So it's so when we talk about this stuff, when we talk about truth, a lot of people don't even know that about me. So when we do lives and stuff, and you hear people saying, you don't know our experience. Okay, I don't know what it is to grow up white, but I did watch a mother who was treated different when people saw she had black children. I do know what it was for her to be hated by her family until I was born, and then still family on her side hated the other family, but at least her mother and eventually her father would come over to loving them because she had children and grandchildren. They needed to know their grandchildren. And the same thing happened on my father's side. My father's mother wouldn't talk, and therefore back then what the mother did as far as that the father was going to do. So when my father's mother, dark skinned side, decided they weren't going to talk to my mother, that was it. And the family followed suit. And when my mother's side decided they weren't going to talk to my father, that was it. Right? My grandmother decided it, everybody followed suit. And so it wasn't until later on, my grandmother, when I was still young, my father's mother, when I was still young, she started allowing us to come over. But even when we have like videos and stuff of us being over there, she didn't talk to my mother. She was still really hard. Like, she was really strict in general. She was kind of quiet anyways, but she didn't talk to my mother at all. But she would allow us to come over. My mother's mother, my mother here actually used to get mad at her mother because my mother and my father started talking to each other so much that she used to get jealous. She used to say, man, she must like you more than she likes me. Right? Because my father and her mother started talking to each other so much that it became like a thing where she was jealous sometimes because she felt like she was treating him like a son, which she should, right? But I guess in her mind, that was her mama, and she never thought her mama and him would get along like that. Then all of a sudden, they were getting along so much they agreeing. So I became the child, and then of course my sister came along. Our younger brother, he didn't come. The next one, he didn't come all the way till like 12 years. I was 12 and a half years old. So and by then, both sets of grandparents had passed away except for my mother's father at that point. And he wasn't really healthy and around that much anyways at that time. So basically, so she, they both basically in essence took one for the team, so to speak. They both decided that they were going to be with each other, and and I know what it is. So when somebody asked me that question, I know what it is to see a mother who has to reassure her children that their blackness is not a curse. Because at one time she came from a family and had to decide to go away from that family to be all in with her husband, to say that, you know what, even if y'all think that being with a black man is a bad thing, I'm gonna be with them, and vice versa. You know, if y'all think that being with this white, even to the point to where my family, my father's family, I won't go into the length and the details of it. They did him extremely dirty when his wife, my mom, passed away, or when she started getting real sick. They basically told him, like, we ain't gonna help y'all. Like, that's how much hate was in there. That's what I grew up in. Now, I didn't know it at the time. My father actually kept it. Hey, how you doing, Ricky? My father actually kept that from us. He wanted us to make our own decisions. So he never told us that stuff. We got older and found out. And so, because I rolled with my dad and everything, I rolled with my daddy, and I said, if that's how they treated mom, that's how they treated us. That's how they treated you. So, if you feel a certain way about it, I support you. I forgave him, but you my father, you the patriarch. If you say that we ain't moving because we can't trust him or whatever, because your own family, your own brothers and sisters wouldn't help you with your wife or whatever, help us with our mom, like, I roll with you in that. And that's the decision I made. Some people might say that that's not righteous or whatever, but like I said, I forgave him. But if you ain't gonna make sure that my mom is taken care of because you don't like her skin color, like, that's what I grew up in. So when people say, I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm like, bro, like, that's my story. Yeah, Yashra does love me. Thank you very much. So that's my story. Right? That's my story. And so a lot of people don't want to hear that. They can't do that. They can't do oh yeah, thanks Cole. Yeah, we look alike. So a lot of people don't understand that when I'm talking, I'm not talking just for the sake of talking. Like, I'm telling you what I went through. I'm telling you what my worship experience was when I went to worship services and we didn't make sense as a family because you had a mother with black children. I'm telling you, like, that was my worship experience. Like, when I say there's a difference between black churches and white churches, I'm telling you, when I showed up to worship services, right, that it was what is your son doing there next to you? Who is that? And then they find out, right, and it was hard for people to accept us. That's what we went through. So, anyways, we've gone longer than what we normally do on the lives in the evenings. I appreciate you guys very much. I'm actually supposed to be reaching out to somebody we were supposed to talk to earlier. I was supposed to reach out to him at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we missed each other. So I'm going to make sure I contact him before it gets to be too late and have some conversation. So y'all pray for us. Matter of fact, it's the brother that was on the live earlier this rising. And so to make sure he got some questions and stuff and wants to know how he can help us and bless us as a community, be part of what we're doing. So we thank you all. We'll be back on 8 o'clock a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow. Did I reach the person who's interested in the class? The person who's interested in the class is actually on right now and wants to be able to take classes that are coming on in January. Did I call them? No, I didn't call them yet. But thank you very much for the reminder. And once again, for those who are part of the Hebrew Holy Days stuff, I don't know if we were able to contact everybody or if we got a response or if the text went through. It's been some weird stuff going on with my phone. As you guys can see, signal-wise, it's been a wild day for me. So if you can be, those who are on the Hebrew Holy Days, if you didn't respond or if you didn't get a text or whatever the case might be, just if you can, set aside 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time for us tomorrow. We're going to try and meet up, okay? Try and send you a text right now. And I apologize if it's something that's catching you off guard in this last minute. but we just want to go through some things in general, especially since the year is getting later. Oh, no problem. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks to my wife for putting this up for us. Now that I got it on here, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I didn't have this on my phone before, but I'm appreciative and love you, Mom. Appreciate you, and thanks for raising your son. Appreciate you. So that being said, thank you all so much. Really appreciate the king and queen and each and every one of you. We'll be back on tomorrow, 8:00 a.m. Eastern New York time. We'll continue with the culture stuff. We're going to try our best. Matter of fact, we're not going to try our best. We shall be successful at getting back to culture and how it has to do with things scripturally. And we appreciate everybody for being on. Once again, follow my wife, the Honorable Maya, she's at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, but the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. You can follow her on TikTok, YouTube, and her website. Also, don't forget to go on YouTube. The premiere should be popping up any second now, hopefully. But it's been waiting for it to load. Like I said, today's been a wild signal day, but prayerfully you guys will be able to get the you guys will be able to look at, if you don't see part 1 tonight for some weird reason, you should be able to see parts 1 and 2 by tomorrow for our 12 days of Christmas piece on why it is that we believe what we believe concerning Christmas and why we don't celebrate it. And we're thankful and grateful to everybody. Don't forget this Saturday coming up, Women in Red, at 6:00 p.m. Eastern or New York time. Join us, brothers. You're invited as well. Women, we're asking that you dress in red for solidarity. And we look forward to having a great time and service together in that. So thank you. We appreciate you all. As always, our prayers that you not only have heard these things, but you research these things, you pray about them, you study them so that you can be able to do them. Thank you so much. We appreciate all these different things. And we appreciate everything that you guys are blessing us with and blessing us with your time, talent, effort, energy, and so on and so forth. So thank you again. And as always, this has been Pastor Kofi, aka the Shadow Band One, Pastor Servant to Christ. We are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. Until I have the next chance and opportunity to be in front of you all again, please remember as always that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family.